Hello friends, welcome to Dungeons & Dragonfly, where I adapt various characters for use in D&D. I'm Dragonfly9078, and today I'm building Yamato from One Piece. After the build, be sure to check out my channel to vote for the next one. So what do we want from this build? Well, Yamato is a powerful warrior, so we'll need to be able to wade into battle and wreak havoc with our giant club. He's also eaten a devil fruit, the mythical Zoan type Inu Inu no Mi model Okuchi no Makami, meaning we need to be able to turn into a giant wolf with magic ice powers. And finally, like most high-level One Piece characters, we'll need some Haki, to predict attacks and protect ourselves from them, and to pierce opponents' defenses. Looking over at ability scores, I'll be using the standard point array. If you want to roll for stats, that's fine, just make sure your strength, dexterity, and wisdom are high enough to multiclass. Starting off with a 15 in strength, Yamato swings that huge club around like it's nothing. Dexterity's 14, he's fast and agile, and if he wants to be Oden, he needs to be able to run. Then Constitution is 12. It's a little bit lower than I'd prefer since Yamato is very durable, but we'll boost it a bit as we go on. We can dump intelligence, we don't really need it for anything, and most of Yamato's knowledge of the outside world comes from Oden's 20-year-old logbook. Wisdom can be 13, eating a dog-type devil fruit is good for the senses, then we'll finish off with a 10 in charisma. Again, it's lower than I'd prefer, but we do need other things more. Yamato and Kaido are Oni, so we'll go with Tiefling for our race, and since Yamato has ice powers, we'll use the Levistus Tiefling subrace. We get +2 to our charisma and +1 to our constitution, but we need strength more, so we'll move the +2 there instead. We get 60 feet of dark vision and resistance to fire damage, which I'm sure came in handy when we were fighting with Ace. And as a Levistus Tiefling, we get the Legacy of Stygia. We can cast Ray of Frost, a cantrip that shoots an icy beam, dealing up to 4d8 damage on a hit and slowing the target by 10 feet for a turn. Once we hit 3rd level, we can cast Armor of Agathis as a 2nd level spell once per day without a spell slot. That gives us 10 temporary HP and coats us in ice that deals 10 cold damage to anyone who hits us with a melee attack as long as those temp HP last. Then at 5th level we can cast Darkness once per day, which projects a 15-foot radius of magical darkness around a point we choose, though unfortunately we can't see through it with our own dark vision. Surprisingly, there actually is a background for someone who was held captive by a cruel dragon, the Dragon Casualty, which gives us proficiency in Intimidation and Survival. We're going to start off as a Barbarian, which gives us 2 skills like Athletics and Perception. Yamato doesn't wear armor, so unarmored defense will make our AC 10 plus our Dexterity and Constitution modifiers. Our Zoan Fruit also lets us go into a Rage as a bonus action on our turn. For up to a minute, we get resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, we have advantage on strength checks and saves, and we deal extra damage with our strength-based melee attacks, which at 2nd level can be Reckless. We can give ourselves advantage on strength-based melee attacks for our turn, at the cost of giving all attacks against us advantage as well, trusting in our armament, Haki, and sheer durability to protect us. Then we get some observation Haki with our new Danger Sense, giving us advantage on dexterity saves against effects that are visible. That's really all I wanted from Barbarian, so we'll move on to Druid for some Devil Fruit powers. For cantrips, Frostbite coats a creature in ice, dealing up to 4d6 cold damage and giving them disadvantage on their next weapon attack if they fail their Constitution save. Then Primal Savagery shifts us into our hybrid form to deliver a bite or claw attack that deals up to 4d10 acid damage on a hit. The Zoan types tend to be physically strong, so Jump will triple our jump distance, and Long Strider gives us 10 extra feet of movement. Then we can create or destroy up to 10 gallons of water, or throw out an Ice Knife that deals piercing damage on a hit, before exploding in an icy burst that deals cold damage in an area on a failed dex save. Do note, one of the downsides of multiclassing Barbarian with any spellcasting class is that we can't cast spells or concentrate on them while we're raging. 2nd level Druids can turn into an animal with Wild Shape, and Druids of the Circle of the Moon are better at it than other Druids. We can Wild Shape as a bonus action rather than as an action, and while we're Wild Shaped, we can burn a spell slot to heal ourselves for 1d8 HP per level of the slot. Moon Druids can also turn into meaner creatures. At the moment, we can turn into any CR1 creature without a swimming or flying speed. While I would love to Wild Shape into a Winter Wolf, which is a large wolf that has built-in ice breath, it is classified as a monstrosity, not a beast, so it doesn't qualify for Wild Shape. For the moment, our best bet is to just go with the Dire Wolf. For 2nd level spells, we can freeze a person in place if they fail a Wisdom save with Hold Person, paralyzing them so we can get some hits in. Or with Spike Growth, we can call up a field of icicles that deal damage to creatures who pass through it. We can harden our armament further with Bark Skin, which in addition to being quality dog pun, makes our AC 16 at minimum for the duration. Again, we can't use this while we're raging, but we can keep concentrating on it while wild-shaped if we cast it before transforming. With our first ASI, we'll even off our strength to 18 and our constitution to 14, then we'll grab Shape Water. That lets us affect a small patch of water in a number of ways, including altering its flow and, of course, freezing it. 5th level brings us 3rd level spells, and the only one I'm really interested in here is Sleet Storm, one of the best annoyance spells in the game. We summon an icy rainstorm in a 20-foot high cylinder with a 40-foot radius, which is absolutely enormous. That whole area is heavily obscured by the rain, any non-magical fires are put out, and the ground is icy and slippery. It all counts as difficult terrain, and if a creature enters the area or starts its turn there, they have to make a dex save or fall prone. And if that wasn't enough, creatures in the area who are concentrating on a spell have to make a save against our save DC every turn to maintain their concentration. At 6th level, our Haki carries over to our wild shape, so our attacks in beast form count as magical for overcoming resistances and immunities. We can also change into creatures up to CR2. There's not another wolf we can turn into in that range, but we can turn into either a polar bear or a huge polar bear. For 4th level spells, Stone Skin is generally inferior to our Rage, since it only gives resistance to non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, but it does let us cast other non-concentration spells while it's up. Fire Shield, on the other hand, lasts for 10 minutes without concentration, so it can be up with Rage or with Stone Skin. For the duration, we get a Flaming Shield that gives us resistance to a damage type, and that damages creatures that attack us in melee. If we make the flames hot, like fire normally is, we resist cold damage and deal fire damage, and if we make them cold, like flames normally aren't, we resist fire damage and deal cold. Ice Storm bombards a 20-foot radius, 40-foot high cylinder area with hail, dealing bludgeoning and cold damage on a failed dex save, and turning the area into difficult terrain for a turn. And Guardian of Nature fully brings out our hybrid form, as we transform into a more bestial appearance without going full wolf. While transformed, our speed increases by 10 feet, our dark vision expands out to 120 feet, and we make strength-based attacks with advantage without the need to attack recklessly. We also infuse our club with Conqueror's Haki, letting it deal an additional 1d6 force damage with every hit. We'll switch gears one more time and pivot over to Ranger. Switching into Ranger gives us a free skill, we'll say Insight. The revised version of Natural Explorer gives us advantage on initiative rolls since we're so eager to leap into battle, gives us advantage on attacks against creatures that haven't acted yet during our first turn of each combat, and lets us entirely ignore difficult terrain. For our favorite enemy, we'll go with Monstrosities, since that includes creatures like Minotaurs and Centaurs that are half human, half animal, like the people who have eaten the Smiles. We deal 2 extra damage to them with our attacks, and we have advantage on checks to track or remember information about them. Most of the Ranger fighting styles don't really work for us, and they don't get great weapon fighting, so we'll dig into the Unearthed Arcana for unarmed fighting. Our unarmed strikes deal 1d6 damage, or 1d8 if we have both hands free, and we can deal an extra 1d4 damage whenever we hit a creature we have grappled. For spells, we can sense other people's Haki with Detect Magic, and Zephyr Strike uses our speed to avoid opportunity attacks for up to a minute. Plus, one time while the spell lasts, we can boost our speed by 30 feet for a turn and give ourselves advantage on one weapon attack that turn. If that attack hits, we deal an extra 1d8 force damage. At 3rd level, we can communicate simple ideas to animals and concentrate for a minute to tell where our favorite enemies are within 5 miles. Good for sneaking around in Onigashima. And since Yamato is tasked with looking after and protecting Momonosuke, he qualifies as a Drake Warden. We learn the Thaumaturgy cantrip, and can use our action to summon a Drake Companion, a small dragon that follows our orders. When we summon him, we can choose between acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison. Whatever we choose, the Drake is immune to that type, and when a creature within 30 feet of it hits another creature with an attack, the Drake can use its reaction to add an additional 1d6 damage of that type. Cold makes the most sense for us, so the Drake is immune to our cold abilities, and adds extra cold damage to our attacks. We'll also pick up Absorb Elements, which uses our own reaction to give us resistance to an energy type when we're hit by it. Then we add a d6 of that kind of energy to our next melee attack. At 4th level, we'll take Great Weapon Master. Whenever we crit with a melee weapon or drop an enemy to 0 HP with one, we can use our bonus action to make another melee weapon attack. And if we're using a heavy weapon, we can take -5 to any of our attack rolls to add 10 to the damage if we hit. I would call our giant iron club a maul, so that definitely qualifies. 5th level rangers can attack twice with the attack action instead of once, and Gust of Wind blows a 60-foot line of wind that pushes creatures who start their turn in it back if they fail a strength save. It also makes them spend double the regular amount of movement to walk against it, along with all the normal wind stuff like dispersing gas and putting out small flames. For our greater favorite enemy, we pretty much have to take dragons. We get advantage on checks made to track and remember information about dragons, and we get advantage on our saves against their spells and effects. Our weapon attacks also do an additional +4 damage against them, and our bonus damage against monstrosities also increases to +4. 7th level Drake Wardens get the Bond of Fang and Scale. Momo grows to medium and gains a flying speed. We get resistance to the damage type we choose when we summon him, and his bite deals an extra d6 of that type of damage as well. Unusually for a medium creature, we can actually ride him at this level, though he can't fly if we're mounted on him. Fleet of Foot lets us dash with our bonus action to really get that Oden run down, and we'll use our last ASI to grab the Fell-Handed feat. We get +1 to attack rolls with our Maul, and if we make a Maul attack with advantage and both rolls would hit, we can knock the target prone. If we attack with our maul with disadvantage and we miss, but the higher of the two rolls would have hit, our haki extends past our maul and deals damage to the target equal to our strength modifier. And if we take the help action to help an ally attack a target that's holding a shield, we can use our maul to knock the shield aside, giving our friend +2 to their attack roll along with the normal advantage. For 3rd level spells, we can throw out a flying blow with our club, much like Zoro can throw a flying slash, so we'll grab Conjure Barrage. Creatures in a 60-foot cone make a dexterity save, taking 3d8 damage of the same type as our weapons damage on a fail, half that on a success. And at 10th level, Nature's Veil lets us use our bonus action to become invisible a number of times per day equal to our proficiency bonus. The invisibility lasts until the start of our next turn, and unlike the regular invisibility spell, doesn't break if we make an attack or cast a spell. Our capstone is the 11th level of Ranger, getting us Elemental Weapon, which gives our club a +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls, along with letting it deal an additional 1d4 cold damage on a hit. And as an 11th level Drake Warden, we get Drake's Breath. As an action, we, or our Drake, can exhale a 30-foot cone of our choice of acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison. Obviously the most in character for us is cold, but this also lets Momo breathe fire. Creatures in the area make a dexterity save and take 8d6 damage on a fail, half on a success. We can use our new breath weapon once per day, but we can use it more by burning a spell slot of 3rd level or higher each time. Now that the build is complete, let's take a look and see what we have done. So I'm gonna be honest, I really like this build. Sometimes with these builds there's a lot of conflict and overlap and the abilities not working together or being kind of clunky or forcing a class that doesn't really fit just to get the abilities that the character has, but this one really doesn't. There's the minor issue of spells not working while Rage is up, but other than that, everything just clicks together. All our Barbarian abilities work while we're wild shaped, as do all of our Ranger abilities other than the spells, so over the course of a few turns we can turn into a polar bear, enter a rage, turn invisible, and exhale an icy breath weapon. Or since we can't cast spells while raging, we can just turn our higher level spell slots into more breath weapons, and any of our spell slots into health if we're wild shaped. It all just fits together and feels very elegant. That said, it does have its issues. Wild Shape is only twice per rest, and Rage is only twice per day, so both are fairly limited use. Our mental stats are also on the low end, and having a low Wisdom means low save DCs for our spells and our breath weapon. Really, other than Strength, our stats are all a lot lower than I'd prefer. If you want to drop one of the feats to boost a stat, that might be a good move. Really, I'd just like one more ASI, but that would mean dropping either a level of Barbarian, so no Reckless Attack or Danger Sense, a level of Druid, so no Fire Shield, Ice Storm, or Guardian of Nature, or a level of Ranger, meaning no Drake's Breath. Personally, I want all of those to be in the build more than I want another ASI, but that's down to personal preference, I suppose. Thank you for watching, friends. I hope you enjoyed the build. Head on over to my community tab if you want to vote for the next character for me to do. This week is between Zed from Kiba, Astolfo from Fate, Frisk from Undertale, and our runner-up from last time, Cars from JoJo's. If you have any feedback or suggestions for characters you'd like to see me build, please leave them in the comments below and they could show up in a future poll. Leave a like or subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks again for watching. I will see y'all later.